If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew.
This is Joe.
And this is Charlie.
So he already beat me to the punch. He introduced himself, our special surprise guest. Y'all didn't know he was coming. Big Charlie Chuck Pena. Wait for the applause.
Welcome, Charlie.
Welcome.
So, background on Charlie. It's one of my best friends growing up. Doesn't really know much about comic books, but we figured we'd get the opinion of somebody who might not be so into the medium as to how they feel about the movie releases. And because we had to push this one back, we wanted to start the New Year's off right with the guest. So, welcome, Charlie.
Thank you, sir.
How's it feel to be here?
You know, it feels really good.
You seem a little stiff, Charlie. You going to loosen up over the course of the podcast or what? We got a Spider-Man movie to talk about. We all happen to go see it. Spider-Man No Way Home, the third movie in the trilogy. It just broke $1 billion already at the box office. So it's doing quite well. And you know what? Based on this gang's opinion here, I'm going to say that I bet we all enjoyed it. I know I did. How about you guys?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So, Charlie, I guess to start off with the movie review, what did you think about the movie? What's been your exposure to comic books or comic book movies?
So I have your basic knowledge of all the comic books. I've been watching them, especially the movies, Marvel, DC movies, watched all the Tobey Maguire movies. Didn't really care for the Andrew Garfield flicks.
God bless.
Watched all the Batman recent ones.
You're pumped about them, huh? So
a little bummed.
So yeah, I mean, do you have any exposure out of comics? Did you see any of the TV shows when you were a kid or anything?
I watched a few of the cartoons, etc. growing up, but nothing that really stuck with me other than it really started sticking with me around when the first couple of Spider-Man movies.
Do you have a favorite character from Spider-Man?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say favorite villain, Green Goblin.
Yeah, dude, the Green Gobbler is pretty badass. So how about we start there, boys? There's so much to unpack in this movie if you really want to talk about it.
Let's talk Green Gobbler. So out of all the villains they introduced, Green Goblin was definitely the best one.
By far.
It was awesome not only seeing William Dafoe return to the role, but his performance was awesome too.
He convinces you he's like really nuts, dude. He's real good at it.
I was just about to say that. There's a scene where he seems really confused in front of Peter Parker and Aunt May, and it made you kind of feel bad for him. It also made you kind of want to help him out a little bit. And then not too much longer, he goes freaking nuts, kills Aunt May, and stabs Tobey Maguire. So I usually don't root for the bad guys, but it was kind of cool to see a villain kind of win in a sense.
Yeah, he was a menace, dude. He just he turned crazy just in the dude's in Happy's condo, dude. Like on a dime right after he helped heal people and come up with stuff like, "Oh, I'd offer you a job, Spider-Man, if you'd cross dimensions or whatever." And next minute, yeah, he fucking bops his aunt and he's getting beat up by Spider-Man. How about the WWE moves he was doing? He didn't have no Green Gobbler stuff, no bombs, no nothing. They were just fist fighting and shit. And he like pile drived him through like a floor, dude. That was nuts.
Yeah, that was pretty hard.
Did you like how ready Tom Holland's Spider-Man was to kill him?
Yeah, dude, he was about to too. He didn't have like that second thought. It required Tobey Maguire to get stabbed.
Tobey had to look at him with that weird look in his eye to get him to stop.
Cool. I'd say one of my favorite things about the movie was that we saw an appearance from Netflix's Daredevil.
Yes.
Knowing him and Kingpin were casted so well, and now they're going to be a part of this MCU, I thought that was huge. I thought that was even cooler than the reveal of the other, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the movie. I thought
Lasagna.
that
Sorry, you said Garfield, dude. But I'm right there with you. The Daredevil reveal was the best. It was like a short scene, but it had a lot of pop, dude. That was sick. Like even Jazz saw it with me and she nudged me when it happened. She's like, oh, no way. Cause she really liked Daredevil. And I thought he was, he portrayed it great. So I was telling her on the ride home, even that, I hope that they incorporate him into at least a series or something, because I liked him as Daredevil. Same with Kingpin, like you mentioned. So it's cool to see them becoming part of the bigger part of the universe.
Yeah, I agree. Daredevil's been badass for a long time. He has a rightful spot in the MCU. They should involve him in something.
For sure.
Good answer, Charlie. If I have to ask you another question real quick, Charlie, just because we got you on as a guest, who's your favorite live action Spider-Man?
I was just about to ask that. It's like we're on the wavelength. How about this, Charlie?
That's
How about
question.
you rank the three in order?
Okay, I could do that. I'd have to say Tom Colley is probably the best.
Okay.
Off the rip. He's also has this name of one of our favorite drinks. Close second. Close second.
Charlie,
what is
After
stress?
Toby.
His name's Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. All right, we'll start over.
Okay.
All right.
So from the beginning.
Well, definitely would rank Tom Holland at number one, just because he was a part of the Avengers. He's had a lot more storylines, and he has all the different badass suits, which are pretty fucking sweet. And a close second would have to be Toby, because he has the nostalgia factor. He was the original Spider-Man. Plus, he can shoot webs straight out of his arms. And then way, way down below the two of them would be Andrew Garfield and his goofy ass swinging through the air making puns. Was not a big fan.
That's a very good list, Charlie. You know what? As long as you said some combination of Big Toby and Tom Holland as number 1 and 2, you can switch those out. Just don't put Garfield higher than 3.
Universally, I think nobody likes Andrew Garfield, but
no, he's having like a renaissance now because he showed up in this movie and wasn't unbearable. So now they're like, give him a third movie. And it's like, no, we didn't need it then. We didn't need it now.
I would agree, though, that Andrew Garfield did do a really good job in this movie.
Lasagna.
But what about you, Burger?
Right,
do you like Toby or Tom better?
I don't know if it is just nostalgia, but I think Toby just embodied it. And I like the original storylines too. Like Doc Ock, like think about how good his villains were too. And the Green Gobbler, Willem Dafoe, like who's the best Spider-Man? Like Tom Holland's Spider-Man villain too. It's like, and he's kind of getting dusted all the time. Like Mysterio is like his hardest villain. And it's like he routinely beats Mysterio in the comics and stuff. It's like, come on. But I feel like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a nostalgia thing, but I don't know. I just feel like Toby gets it in a different way. I think it's it's not Tom Holland's fault, but he's like a Iron Man Jr. in these. He's not as much a Spider-Man as he is Iron Man Jr. But I do think that the end of the movie sets him up to finally be more of a Spider-Man if they're going to continue making movies with him. I think he'll finally be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man instead of what he's kind of been.
The way I see it too, to add on to that, is just that within the first hour of the very first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, he murdered somebody and we knew he was cold-blooded. Tom Holland seems to routinely get himself in stupid situations because of making some, you could say, immature decision.
No, he tries to be so mature that
they make like
backfires.
Like a whole bunch of domino effect all comes from him making some childish decision.
Exactly.
Where Toby was just out murking people in the streets at night.
I actually think Toby may have been my favorite, but he was a little too stoic for the role. Whereas I think Tom Holland could grow into being like the best Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I don't think he's there yet, but it is promising. With how many movies he's gotten so far, I think he is getting pretty comfortable with the role.
No, I like him a lot. I mean, it's a very close 1 and 2 for me, and it kind of changes on my mood. I mean, they're that good. It's just, I just don't like Garfield in that type of way.
Sure.
But to what Charlie said, there was a good point you made. And a lot of those childish decisions, as you call them, I mean, even though it was urged by Aunt May to do the right thing and we're going to like rehabilitate them, that was the same equivalent of like taking in like turbo crackheads into your home and like thinking that they weren't gonna revert to being turbo crackheads in a short amount of time. Because I mean, they're literally menaces to society that could take on one Spider-Man at a time, and you just put like 5 or 6 of them in a room with you and you fucking are at their will pretty much. I mean, look at how tossed up him and Aunt May got just hanging out with them. I mean, if he didn't do that,
are you telling me Aunt May made the wrong decision?
I mean, technically, Aunt May was too loving, but technically she had to die. She gave Peter her "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, which he needed, which is why I think, especially with how the movie ended, that we see a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man dude. He's in his own apartment. He ain't got no money. He don't know nobody. He's got to rely on himself now. And he's, you know, he had to make his own suit over again. I mean, his aunt's dead and nobody knows that he's even related to her. So he's got no one.
Speaking of the suit, somebody at work asked me if Spider-Man's webs were real or mechanical. And to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've always been mechanical, other than like the occasional outlier with Tobey Maguire.
Yes.
I think they wanted to show off like how scientific and intelligent Peter Parker is, why it's always been mechanical. But I do kind of like the cosmetic change in pace of giving him actual web shooters, considering he's got all the other spider powers.
That does make sense. Yeah, I mean, Tobey's always been that way, and I thought it was always cool. I mean, when I was kind of a newbie to comics and I was more focused on the Spider-Man movies, I'd always assumed he did too, because it's like, that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't he? But the mechanical part's cool, because I mean, even in the first movie, Tobey was still like a dork and like a amateur scientist. Like, I mean, he came up with the Green Gobbler serum to fix him. So it's like, even with or without the building his own web shooters, he's always been a very scientific character. So
spoiler alert for Charlie and probably other people, but during that whole thing, especially at the end when Peter makes everybody forget who he is, I'm anxious to see Ned Leeds turn on Peter Parker.
Dude, he's going to be the Hobgobbler. I honestly don't see him being the Hobgobbler, though, unless he gets more intimidating, because
top 5 worst villains. Peep that episode.
But did you notice how he looked him right in the eyes towards the end of the movie and said, you know, if I forget who you are, I promise I'll never turn into an evil villain and like come after you.
For sure. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. When he was like telling them that they were going to forget who he was, they started crying. And who was it that told Ned?
Tobey.
That's what it was.
His best friend killed him when they were working on the science experiments, you know, to go fix the villains.
And so Ned, just like, to paraphrase Tobey, was like, if I forget who you are, I will never become, you know, your biggest nemesis. And that's definitely, you can tell that's building up to something, especially then after that, how they completely forget who he is and he goes and sees them and they don't even like recognize him. You can tell something's going down.
Word.
You want to know something weird that I thought about? Well, I mean, they said it in the movie, but I guess I hadn't realized it. There's no Oscorp in Tom Holland's universe. So you telling me they never established a Green Gobbler for him to fight? That's like his Joker pretty much. It's like Green Gobbler's got to be a menace to society for Peter Parker.
I agree with you, but I just think there's only so many movies that can shoot with him that they kind of try to expedite the process. And that was their way of bringing Green Goblin into the movie, because how many Spider-Man movies can you make with Tom Holland? Because we'll talk about the post-credit scene after this, but they clearly want to bring in Venom amongst other villains. And so it just, Venom. But that is a good observation. It does hurt to see when he doesn't get his best villain, but we've seen him so many times in pop culture and so many times referenced with Spider-Man. And to my point earlier, when I was talking about Daredevil, they might bring in the Kingpin. There's so many different directions that they could go with Spider-Man villains that it's just impossible to fit them all. I mean, even though that's high priority, I get it.
That aside, I mean, there's still no Green Goblin in his universe. He don't have one at all. Not even on screen, not off screen.
I also thought that was pretty strange.
Yeah, so you're telling me there's no evil Norman or Harry or no one?
Okay. Or Doc Ock, because if there's no Green Goblin, there's no Doc Ock in Tom Holland's universe, which I thought was kind of strange.
Yeah,
right.
You don't got no Dr. Puss. Like, what's going on? So, I mean, next time they're probably going to have to do Kraven. They actually said if they weren't going to do this multiversal stuff, that they were supposed to do a Kraven film. And I'd still like to see that happen. I don't know how you really do it now that he's kind of stuck in New York like he's supposed to be most of the time. You're going to have him get hunted by Kraven there? That'd be kind of cool, though. Actually, fuck it, whatever. Let's go for
Maybe
it.
Craven can hunt the alien costume.
That's a good point. But man, I don't know if I want some like Tom Hardy Venom stuff up in these movies. It's gonna get real bunk kind of quick.
Well, they did make it so I guess we should just cut to the post-credit scene.
I didn't even see it.
Oh yeah,
there's two of them.
I don't care, dude. My theater was a menace to society. I had to get out of there. I says I'll see it online somewhere else.
Well, the first post-credit scene introduced Venom to their timeline, Tom Hardy's Venom. When Doctor Strange made it so people remember his identity, everybody began to appear, and that's what brought Venom into the universe. But at the end of the movie, when Peter asks Doctor Strange to make everybody forget, Tom Holland's Venom leaves again, but a little bit of the costume drips before he gets sent back. And so if they're going to introduce Venom, it doesn't sound like it's going to be Tom Hardy.
Cool.
Also, I feel like it's good timing to introduce a character like Venom, considering Spider-Man's life just got pretty shitty with losing his aunt and nobody he loves remembers him. So that could be kind of cool. And then the second trailer, it didn't do anything for me. I don't think you missed much, Burger. It was basically like Doctor Strange fighting an evil version of himself. But I don't know why I should be excited about that unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very exciting. And, I didn't see that. And I was like, I would go see a Doctor Strange film. But I hope you ain't just fighting evil selves or something. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, that's going to be directed by Sam Raimi, and he did the original Spider-Man movies. So I'd kind of like to see what he's going to do with more spooky Doctor Strange film. But yeah, I'm kind of choosy on what I'm going to see. I'm kind of more excited for Batman. I don't know what on the Marvel slate. Just Spider-Man whenever that happens again.
I got another question for Charlie before I give my conclusion. Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy? Who do you like, Charlie?
Would this be between Andrew Garfield and the original Mary Jane or the MJ from
whatever MJ
Spider-Man?
or Gwen Stacy you want?
It's MJ all day, baby.
Kirsten Dunst?
For sure.
Oh, hell no, Charlie. You're
I'm swimming.
okay.
Charlie, I kind of agree. Gwen Stacy was like Peter Parker's first love, and Green Goblin and Spider-Man both killed her. And so it's MJ all day, huh?
MJ all day. She was like my first girlfriend. I says, come here, mama.
Cool. Last thing I'll touch on that. I thought it was tasteful that even though Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man couldn't save Gwen Stacy, he did save Tom Holland's Mary Jane. So the movie showed a pretty good understanding of like that history in comic books.
Yeah, I like
it
that.
Was pretty soft though.
Charlie says let her fall.
No. I mean, save her, but he got real soft after that.
Yeah, he started crying in the club immediately.
Yeah.
I had some people in the movie theater, a couple, a guy and a girl crying right next to me, like for half of the movie. And it's just
Spider-Man don't cry.
Granted, it's a sad movie, but like none of this
ain't
is
that
real.
sad, bro.
None of this is real.
Did you guys hear the applause when Tobey Maguire came out in the theaters?
No.
Everybody started clapping it at the theater I was in. It was actually kind of cool.
Like, no, it's not kind of cool, Charlie. That needs to be
I liked it.
Stamped out. We need to cut that out, dude. They can't hear you. Tom Holland doesn't know that you enjoyed the performance.
Clapping and coughing.
Please stop clapping, dude. Clapping and coughing.
Sneezing.
Sneezing and farting and coughing and doing all kinds of dastardly things in the movie theater trying to.
Speaking of dastardly, they advertised a Spider-Man cocktail like they did for the Black Widow movie, and it's just freaking slushy. You know what I mean?
And now that was an episode of Joe's Alcohol Corner where he sits at the bar and pre-games the cocktail of the day prior to going into the film. And that was his review. Look forward to more of those on future movie reviews.
Well, is there anything else you got to touch on, Burger?
No, I'm all good. I've said most of my piece. I think we just need to hit final ratings.
Charlie, did you say your piece?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, okay. So I'll be the first to... Actually, you're the guest. What would you rate the movie and why?
Out of 10.
Out of 10, I would give it a solid 7. I'd say it was a solid movie overall. There were a couple strange holes in the plot. The fact that it was all based on a dumb idea to try to get his friends into college kind of threw me off. But the way that they wrapped it all into like a very clean, well-packaged deal, I was impressed. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Cool. Well, I would give it like a 8.5 out of 10. Definitely my favorite Spider-Man movie, if not one of my favorite Marvel movies. Definitely the best Marvel movie of 2021. And it was one of the better movies to come out in 2021 too, I think, regardless if it's a blockbuster or not. I thought it was pretty nuanced in the way that they were able to tie all the Spider-Man movies together while also making it nostalgic for the audience. It was a great way to set up a Spider-Verse if they want to go that direction. And I was pretty impressed that they were able to retain all of those actors, which is why the whole theater was going crazy. So I really enjoyed it, actually. How about yourself, Burger?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was one of the better Spider-Man movies, one of the better Marvel movies. I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. I'm right there with you. It was, yeah, I mean, it had a little bit of everything. There were a lot of boneheaded decisions, and the majority of the movie was all his fault. Actually, all of it was his fault. So technically, he did kill Aunt May, like the Green Goblin said. But he still Spider-Man through it, and with some dumb Parker luck that wasn't bad for once, and some ingenuity and some help from Big Toby and not Andrew Garfield. They saved the day, and I thought it was really good. I liked seeing Toby. I liked having all the villains there. Electro was better than he was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, he actually acted more like Jamie Foxx than a dork like last time. And, him not being a floating blue guy was cool. There's a lot of Marvel humor. I mean, that's how it should be in a Spider-Man movie. I mean, it's supposed to be more lighthearted, even though he doesn't have very many lighthearted things going on in the MCU movies. I guess he tries to be optimistic while, shit's falling apart around him every week, I guess. But it was a good film. I'm excited to see where they go from here, at least, because they kind of, wipe the slate clean, so they can kind of do whatever they want now.
I'm pulling for a Craven movie, but one last thing I'll say is my biggest fault with the movie is how willing Doctor Strange was to turn the world sideways just because Spider-Man is having a tough time. Like, I could see if it impacted more characters than just Peter Parker. It just seemed kind of irresponsible and out of character for Doctor Strange to do something like that just because Mysterio one-upped him.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess at the same time, he even made it sound like it was an easy deal. He said he did it to Wong over their weekend party. See, he didn't remember. So, I mean, he obviously has success doing it. It's just, like I said, Peter fucked up. He kept changing the terms 6 times during the spell. Of course, it's going to get wonky. It would have been easy peasy light work for Doctor Strange if Peter wasn't being a nuisance during the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit silly that, it doesn't have greater ramifications and whatnot. But I mean, he kind of owes Peter one in a way. I mean, they fought together during Infinity War and stuff. It's
well,
they're
if a
bros.
spell is that serious, leave him out of the room after you approve his request. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go do that by yourself and be like, okay, see you tomorrow. Go home. I could do this. Why do you need to witness it? You don't know anything about magic. Go away, Peter Parker.
That is to build off that is the same. My biggest fault with the movie was how Doctor Strange is arguably the most powerful person that Peter has at his disposal because he just has the ability to do so many different things. And he was able to keep all of those supervillains that almost killed Spider-Man trapped in a basement using a spell. And to just the fact that he split him into a different dimension and then trapped him and left him there and to not even bother trying to get his help with any of the ensuing problems that were going to arise. It was surprising to me. And like you said, it was kind of out of character because Doctor Strange reminds me of the dad in the Avengers movies. For Peter to just lock him in a room and lock the key and shut him out, I was just kind of surprised that that's how they were going to cut him off at that point when, like I said, he's one of the stronger people that he could use as an ally, and he was going through some tough times.
Yeah, he did make everything harder on himself because of how he was acting the whole time. You know what? I'll say he's definitely killed Aunt May. Nobody else.
He killed Aunt May.
He should feel guilty, dude. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, he made a lot of boneheaded decisions. It wasn't just one or two. It's everywhere he turned, he just made bad decisions. It's goddamn, Peter, just fucking chill out for a minute, dude. You're not helping nobody. But yeah, I don't even know where to go from here because we're saying our piece and now we're at the end.
Well, I guess that's all she wrote. Thank you,
Any
Charlie,
final
for
thoughts?
coming on the pod and reviewing this with us.
Yes, sir. I appreciated it. I liked the movie. thought it was worth it to come on, take a little chat about it.
Nice. Anything you want to shout out while you're on the podcast? Anything you want to pump handles?
I don't got any handles, baby. No handles for me.
Hey, and with that, you know where to find us at CBJ Podcast on Facebook, at CBJ Pod on Instagram. Hit us up through there. You can hit up our email. It's on our Instagram page. Like, rate, review, everything that influencers say. We're not like that, but please do it. It helps the algorithm, and we'd appreciate it a lot. And you know what? With that, we thank you.
Next time, we'll be reviewing Final Crisis. After that, we'll probably be taking a break from the crises.
Thank God. These are so long.
Long, very long. But it's been a long time since we've done a book review. So that's what's coming next. And with that, thank you guys.